5 p.m. And if there are no objections, we will move into our Senate session with unanimous consent. Are there any objections? If there are no objections, we will now move into Senate. We will begin with attendance. So first, Abraham, Ali,
top right, you all been in.
I know, I can't change that. The thing is that I don't have numbers that thingy.
We can do
I was like, no, I'm pretty sure we did. I was like, way more than this. Wait, just copy the document. Oh, yeah.
Hi, Priyanka. How's it going? I'm good. How are you? Good.
To go try to for we were gonna go canvas for this guy who's running against me. I don't know, former ambassador. A bunch of so Steve decided so Joe Biden started. And they're only
Alright guys, we will continue attendance. Sorry about that. Anyways, Abraham? Okay. Ali? Here. Apia is not here. Audibert? Here. Baruco?
Here.
Baxter?
Present.
Bernardin? Here. Bonaventura?
Point of order. If Senator Baxter is under voting senators, will he be counted towards quorum even though he's not a voting senator? Same for myself.
Yes.
I think he has that figured out.
Okay,
I don't
alright.
think it accounts for, I think he made this so that it has everyone, even if you're like voting slash not voting.
Alright.
The form, if I did it on that
Yeah.
majority quorum, I think it's figured in that.
Okay, just checking.
Okay, continue. Bonaventura? Burns?
Here.
Okay, that's it. Carroll? Caruso? Absent. Chen? Contreras? Contreras? Crolla? Crow? Josh Crow. Crow is Lee. Here. Demura.
Here.
Also. Dude, I'm sorry. I don't know why this is like that. But present. Okay. Stockham. Here. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Present. Edwards. Is that here? Yep. Efremov.
Here.
Fazina.
Here.
Gomez.
Here.
Hagan.
Here.
Harvey. Harvey. Hawkins.
Here.
Hinton.
Here.
Me. Javeri. Kelly. Kelly. Clayson.
Here.
Kundu. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCune. McCune. Okay. McManus.
Here.
Nima.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Yuan. Nguyen. Wawucha. Roger Rahman. Reynolds.
Here.
Present. Rogalski.
Here.
Sinopoulos. Sinopoulos. Schroeder.
Present.
Seifert.
Here.
Present. Teeling.
Present.
Present. Takar. Here. Tiberio.
Here.
Present. Tumu.
Absent.
Von Olsen.
Here.
Bora.
Present.
Walker. Walker. Wellen. Wellen. Wotina.
Here.
And Wright. Okay. Guys, we have Coral.
Oh.
Thank you for making it excited. Okay. With that out of the way, guys, with that, we will now move into the approval of the minutes. If there are no objections, well, anyways, we will now move to, sorry, go ahead, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna object.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, well, objection is noted, we will,
Success. Thank you.
not be approving the minutes, because we don't have minutes. We will move to the next item on the agenda, which is old business. Seeing none, we will move on to the next item of the agenda, which is new business. A joint resolution regarding the removal of the Citizens Election Program from the Connecticut General Assembly 2017-2018 budget. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yeah, sure.
I swear to God, if you said it. Who is, Crow?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we will now move into discussion.
All right, can you bring up the
I
legislation?
can. It is right here. It is right here. It is.
It's some.
It's coming.
Okay, so I'm Senator Baruco, Franklin Baruco, if you don't know me, Jerry is Senator.
I'm Noah O'Connor. I am the Vice Chair of Outreach for Student Services. And we're here to present our bill to save the Citizens Election Program from being removed from the 2017-2018 budget. So first of all, what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about what the Citizens Election Program is, when it was implemented, and a bit of the effects that it's had on our state. So it was implemented in 2005 with the intent to spur corruption in our campaign finance system. What it does in total is for every dollar given to a candidate, the state of Connecticut would then match that dollar up until, I believe, around $10,000 overall. What it does, what it aims to do is help grassroots candidates, third-party supporters, and pretty much anyone who doesn't have enough money to support themselves in the campaign finance system. Because as we all know, getting $3,000, $5,000 a week isn't something that everyone can do, and this program has been beneficial to those candidates. For example, May Flexer and Greg Haddad have been huge advocates and have been helped out significantly from this. Overall, it has a bunch of benefits that have been substantial. 98% of corporate spending towards certain candidates has gone down overall. I believe the specific numbers is $3 million has been dropped down to $34,000 from super PACs going down to their pretty much candidates they support. Other than that, Franklin, you want to add some other thoughts?
So basically, how does this apply to UConn students? Well, our entire idea behind this legislation is that our vote matters. It doesn't directly affect all of us now, which a lot of legislation deals with, but our vote to our representatives, the people that we elect, does matter. Without public financing for elections, people run for office and they're supported by corporate and special interests, and that dictates the platform of candidates that run. Students and other people are left to the wayside with a lot of candidates running because, frankly, we don't contribute as much as to the campaign contributions as other corporate and special interests. We have public financing for candidates that encourages more candidates to run, more people to be represented, students like us to be represented on the platform. So basically, we're trying to show USG support, UConn student body at Stores support for public financing of our elections. Connecticut is an anomaly. They're one of the few states that actually has a public financing. And they're actually, in the new budget proposals, they're wanting to cut this. They're wanting to actually cut this even though it's less than 1%. This is 0.58% of our budget. This raises concerns of fiscal sustainability if we can afford this. As a state, we can afford this. I know we're dealing with a lot of budget cuts right now. But to throw away an important program that's less than 1% that contributes to cleaner, fairer, more representative elections, Senator O'Connor and I felt like this was necessary to bring up to USG and have senators at least talk about and think about. UConn PERG has been fighting to keep the CEP because better, cleaner, fairer elections. Public financing of elections allows more people to run and for students like us to be better represented. So if we don't take a stance and say we support the CEP and public financing of elections, what message do we send? That our opinion and our vote doesn't matter.
One thing that Franklin touched base on, which I really appreciate that you mentioned, was the student impact. Because a lot of people have brought to us, how does this actually affect students? Why does this affect us? And I was thinking to myself, how does it actually, how do we actually have a huge say in this? And I was thinking, who is going to fight for this in the future? When it comes to protecting the integrity of our democracy, specifically Connecticut's democracy, who's going to fight for it? Is it going to be the corporate interests right now? Is it going to be the state government officials who are currently in there? Probably not, because it's under risk of getting removed. I honestly believe that the educators, the people here, the students are the only people who are going to protect the democracy. It's not the students. Who else is going to protect the integrity of our democracy?
And to make sure everybody's up to speed, this will take a little bit, but we think it's important. We want to read line by line our legislation. Make everybody that didn't get a chance to read it clear on what we mean and what we strive for with this legislation.
All right, so without ado, here is the full legislation. A statement of position regarding the removal of the Citizens Election Program from the Connecticut General Assembly's 2017-2018 budget. Whereas the undergraduate student government at Stores has a duty to promote the interests of the student body.
Whereas many UConn students may one day aspire to pursue a career in government and hold a public statewide office in the state of Connecticut.
Whereas UConn students in the past have run for statewide office after graduation and will continue to in future elections.
Whereas many UConn students are already struggling financially and would have a reduced chance of running and winning a state representative or statewide office seat without resorting to accepting donations from special interests.
Whereas the Democracy Campaign of the UConn Public Interest Research Group, PERG, gathers and provides student support on political issues related to government officials.
Whereas Chapter 157 of the Connecticut General Statutes establishes the Citizens Election Program as a voluntary public finance campaign program that serves the intended purpose of incentivizing candidates for statewide offices and the General Assembly to seek donations from small donors, ordinary citizens. Instead of raising money from special interests, qualified candidates will receive public money from the Citizens Elections Fund.
Whereas the Citizens Election Program will benefit underfinanced UConn students who will intend to run for qualifying CEP
Whereas a New York Times nationwide telephone poll in 2015 reveals that 84% of Americans believe money has too much of an influence in our election, and 85% of Americans want fundamental changes to campaign financing this year. Whereas the implementation of the CEP was intended to deter the overwhelming influence of big money in local elections that has a corrupting influence on local politics and gives grassroots candidates a higher chance of campaign success.
Whereas the program has been funded and financed through proceeds collected from the taxing of abandoned projects in the state of Connecticut, along with individual donations.
Whereas the program should only be implemented by the state of Connecticut in a financially sustainable way, even though the CEP amounts to less than 1% of the Connecticut budget.
Whereas the CEP provides a framework that enables statewide legislatures and officials to make decisions that promote interests of the public rather than to special and corporate interests.
Whereas currently anyone seeking statewide office may apply for a grant from the state after raising enough qualifying contributions and filling out the CEP application.
Whereas the CEP has been essential in fostering public confidence, integrity in our political system, and provides the public with essential transparency and critical information over the disclosure of campaign expenditures.
Whereas maintaining the CEP has and will continue to ensure a fairer election process in the state of Connecticut since its creation in 2005.
Whereas the past and recent budget cuts in the Connecticut General Assembly has threatened the existence of the citizen election program.
Whereas the removal of said program would diminish the aid provided towards grassroots candidates in the future.
Whereas removal of said program would severely damage our democratic values, the success of grassroots candidates, and the fair election process in the state of Connecticut at the cost of an insignificant portion of the overall budget.
Whereas USG support for the CEP would provide UCONN PERG with the student backing necessary to effectively advocate for and keep the CEP, there should be a comma there, excuse me, we'll do that for unanimous consent, and even expand it when the fiscal and economic capability of the state allows for the future.
Therefore, be it resolved that the undergraduate student government at SOAR supports the UCONN PERG Democracy Campaign advocating for the continuation of the CEP and supports the continuation of the CEP in the state of Connecticut's 2017-2018 budget.
And therefore be it finally resolved that the undergraduate student government condemns the removal of the CEP from the state of Connecticut's 2017-2018 budget. And we'll be ready to accept questions. I just wanted to mention out, Senator Teeling actually looked it up, and our representative at home, Greg Haddad, actually gets campaign contributions from the CEP. So if you're thinking how this affects students even directly, this public money goes to actually advocating for a really qualified and man that's dedicated to the UCONN students, Greg Haddad. And Senator May Flexer, our other representative, shows support for this program. So we have both of our representatives at Mansfield showing support for the CEP. And Noah and I are open to hear any criticisms, any questions, concerns, and make any amendments as you see fit. We think this is a very important for USG to pass and make a statement, because we have not done so in the past. We give the floor
yield
to
that
the
to
Secretary.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Senator O'Connor? Sorry. Senator Bruno.
All right, Senator Hawk.
I have a question for information. In terms of how this money is exactly doled out, and it talks about how qualified candidates receive the money, how is qualification, how are those determined?
So qualified candidates pretty much go for anyone who runs for the Connecticut General Assembly, anyone who qualifies to run for the state government, which includes the governor, secretary, treasurer, all those high-ranking
And
positions.
Senator and House of Representatives. So not anybody can just run. You do have to get a little bit of startup capital through other ways. So you can get just public donor contributions, so you can go around your town or county, and also you can get special interest contributions and then get on top. The CEP, one of the footnotes we have, if you scroll up, it actually, if you can continue up, yes. I think if you click the CEP, this final PDF, you'll be able to actually be redirected. The first one, you'll be redirected to a little PDF that shows you exactly how to get the qualifying contributions. So you have to get some contributions before you get the public money from the CEP. You don't automatically get it.
So these people are still getting money from private donors?
Oh, yes.
And possibly corporations?
Yes, but the CEP allows it that not their entire campaign is dependent on it. Yep, there it goes. Senator Reynolds and then Haley.
Yes.
That's all you.
Okay.
Has the CEP directly benefited any student while they were enrolled at the University of Connecticut? Because I think it's our job to advocate for students, and I don't know if that meshes with alumni, because this could directly benefit alumni of UConn.
Which
Mark
Mark have
Sargent
students,
and
yes.
Adam Cooler, who have run for office.
Yeah, and Senator Mark Sargent, that was the president, student body president.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So in terms of directly, I'd say it does, because Greg Haddad being able to serve us, he ran on a campaign that got CEP support and CEP donations. So if that not had happened, I don't want to reach too far, but who's to say that he'd be our representative now if he didn't have that help from the CEP? So if we think Greg Haddad does a good job representing us, and I personally know and I personally think he does, that's a way that we are directly affected by the CEP. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but can I follow up?
Yes.
I think it's definitely an interesting debate, because it's one thing to say, it's kind of an indirect route, if you know what I mean. It's
Yes,
like
thank you.
Had benefits from this, but I guess you're trying to say that students indirectly benefit.
Yes, and in a way can directly benefit because our representation is somebody that received contributions from this program.
Senator Brewer.
You acknowledge this yourself. I also feel like too, like, is this applicable to USG? I feel like your introduction to your legislation explained really well how it's applicable to us. But going through all of your whereas clauses, I think it's really not proving that. Again, same thing as what
Reynolds?
Senator Damon was saying, Reynolds. Again, like, we're USG, we really concern ourselves with fee-paying students,
Yes.
not alumni.
Yes.
Or even like you cite New York Times, that talks about all Americans, what do UConn students think? Do you have statistics on that?
That's a good point.
Order? Is this for questions, or, I mean, I'm sorry.
No, that is a question. He said where are the statistics? Okay.
So one thing is you're asking is, do we have like a direct recommendation to the student body, like
Yes.
going out and gathering petitions? Unfortunately, we would love to go out and gather petitions, but because of the recent budget that's being very matter, and our resources are kind of strained right now at the democracy campaign, we haven't heard, so we're kind of unavailable to go out and try to get feedback. For what we have done, I could definitely give my own word on it. Franklin has been there as well.
And-
we have been tabling to support other things such as the citizens election program, pretty much advocating other stuff for the democracy campaign. And we've been talking to people about this. We've had a bunch of like open, well received when it comes to saving the citizens.
Sorry, I'm going to answer your question. In regards to, I would like to yield my time to ex officio Senator Walter Dodson to answer that question. Yep.
Okay, so we're just doing really good job, she's sharing today, but just point of order, everything has to go through her.
Yeah.
Like, even when like someone finishes talking, it has to go to her to even like have them respond. So just like for respect of our minutes.
Yeah. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, not against you guys.
No, okay.
Feel bad.
I'd like to yield my time to Senator Dodson to answer your
Point of
question.
order, I think we
You have
should
to yield to
probably.
her to
Yeah.
yield it.
Yes. Remember when Nundan was saying that all the time dollars,
Yeah.
we choose to give it to people in little bursts.
Oh, okay. So, excuse me. I would
Once you
like
give
to
me-
respectfully yield my time to
Come on,
the
you gotta
chair.
think respect. Give it back to me.
Yield my time to the chair
Thank
to encourage to let Senator Dodson.
Any other questions? Or any,
Does the chair accept?
yes, Senator Dodson.
Cool. So,
Yes.
Is he going, by yielding your time to him, will that help answer my question?
Yes, exactly.
yeah. So, along that vein of how it benefits students here, at Concord we have a lobbyist in the state house, and if USG were to pass this resolution, that would then give our advocacy arm a lot more of a mandate when we go back into the state house to actually lobby on this more. We say, oh well, the undergraduate student government, which represents the entire the undergraduate student body, they said that they support this. So then people will listen to us far more, and it gives us more of a mandate to represent students in Hartford, which gives this body more of a reach, in my opinion. I move my time back to the chair.
Yes.
So, then my next question is, why aren't those things in here? Like, why didn't you say we as students who are voting electors of the state of Connecticut who can go for our hometown or locally here in Mansfield, who then in turn represent us as students? Like, why is that in there? Why isn't the ex officio said in there? I
That's
feel
an
like
excellent point.
many of these whereas clauses aren't applicable for us as USG.
Excellent point. We are
And I
very
feel like
much
many of them
open.
also, yeah.
We're very much open to
Back
implementing.
to you, back to me.
Dude, that goes through.
Zach.
Yeah, I know.
And
No, you didn't.
Okay, so I yield my time back to the chair.
Yes.
So we're in favor of friendly agreements, including the things we mentioned in the beginning and after, and what Johnson said, to your sentiment. So we agree with that. We yield our time back.
Representative, so I just have two, like, technical things on the second page, the third whereas clause, it ends with amounts to less than 1% of CT. I think that should say budget.
Yep,
You said it, but
1%.
Yep, thank you.
it says BCT. And then one thing I wanted to point out was, especially at like the bottom of the second page, it seems kind of repetitive. When this went through external, there was a lot less words here, and I think it did become pretty repetitive, especially like in that area when it says who looks at and who looks at. It's just like
Senator Hagel.
Hi, so I just wanted to know, do you have any figures for what the less than 1% is?
Yes.
Because I feel like it could go from thousands to millions. You have my time.
Okay.
Yeah, so when it's less than 1%, technically speaking, is 0.58% of the Connecticut state budget.
And this is about 20, I believe 20 million, around there. And that's why we included, if the financial capability warrants it, so it can go up or down, but we just really don't want to remove it. That's the main piece of legislation. We yield our time back to the chair.
Senator Morgan.
All right, 2 questions. Where is the money that goes towards these candidates that are running coming from?
Yep, if we,
You have to yield back to me first.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
let's scroll down, one of our clauses says, if you can scroll it back, right there, the program has been funded and financed through proceeds collecting from the taxing of abandoned properties. So pretty much nobody really gets these directly. That's the beauty of this program. Abandoned properties are taxed, I think, to the towns that they're in. And so no direct citizens paying into it, but it is voluntary contribution. Some citizens do pay into it. We yield their time back to the chair.
Yes.
Okay,
So where does, again, I thought this question everybody else is asking, where does USG come into this at all? If this money isn't coming from like our school budget, the USG budget, like what is this stating our involvement in this? Because to me, I don't really see a direct involvement to us because it's nothing that like UCONN students see, hear, feel, or taste on campus. This is like campaigning outside, like this is Connecticut politics rather than like campus involvement.
Yield back.
You have to yield back.
Yield back.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yeah, a bunch of people are asking how is this actually like affected by USG? How does USG have a huge role in playing this? We come to this question and I personally think that when we think of the state of our democracy, who does it affect? It affects everyone in the state of Connecticut. Who's in the state of Connecticut? We are. We're citizens of the Connecticut, thus we are affected by the state of our democracy. And I believe that, as I said before, we are the only advocates for democracy when it comes to, like, let's be real. Who's going to advocate for the democracy? Usually, in the past, we see it's the workers and it's the students. We need to, I believe it's our role, it's our duty as students to protect our democracy. And that's where it comes in, because our democracy is our future. This is the world that we're going to come into. When we graduate, we want to be into a world where like it doesn't affect us, or like where like, it has a huge effect on us.
So bouncing off this point, USG is directly affected because we're students that were voted into office. And, oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. Continue.
We're students that were voted into office, and presumably when we're going to be voting in future Connecticut elections. So November 7th, we have an upcoming local election coming from Mansfield. With passage like this and our lobbying efforts with PERG, we might see more people running in Mansfield local elections and other elections in the state that can better represent our interests. So I see your sentiment on how USG today, how is it affected by? But we're talking about USG tomorrow and USG in the future with this legislation.
Also, if I may make one other point, it's like you're saying how like this is kind of a political issue, like a bigger than a state issue, correct? We, as a body in the past, we have made statements on bigger state issues. We have, for example, the state of cannabis. We've made a statement on that. We've made statements on other things that regard doctors. I yield my time back to the chair.
Thank you, Senator Hawkins.
I move to postpone this to next Senate.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to.
Point of information.
Yeah.
No, the motion has to be.
It has to.
Yeah.
You can't do it in the middle of the meeting.
Yeah.
You have to get a second, but then,
Okay, so you need to
so
second.
before we vote on it, you
Yeah.
can, but we have to have a second. Are you voting?
Okay, so first you have, like, you continue.
No, you need
No,
to second.
first you would, yeah, you would say, is there a second?
Is there a second?
And then once we're into the debate on that, we can vote. Yeah.
Yes. Is there a second? Okay. Zena. We will now move into discussion about this motion to postpone.
I think this would be helpful if we could look, I'm like looking at the document that was referenced to me at first, and it's quite long, and I'm still trying to figure out what this actually does, and I think there are a lot of questions in terms of where is this money coming from, how much is 0.56% of our budget, how much is actually worth the millions, yada yada, and I think if we have some time to really look at this and scrutinize it, just have a week where we don't have two people with, no offense, a particular goal answering our questions, we might be able to sort of make a more holistic decision.
Okay, Senator Martina?
So this, my understanding, this is relatively time sensitive, and this was also probably the last thing. So if you didn't know, already know by now what it's
Senator Healy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to quickly just point out that tonight the CT legislature is going to potentially take over budget. The budget documents are not available to the public. The budget documents are not available to the public. But the Senate is scheduled to gavel in at 7. It's 7:07 right now. We have no idea what's in this budget. We don't know what the effects to UConn are being. Some say to be $130 million. Some say the cuts are up to $135 million. We don't know what the outcome of the Citizens Election Program is. I'm asking the members of our Senate to just take the time. Let's have this conversation. We're supposed to be having tough conversations to serve our constituencies. Let's decide this as a group and push on as this conversation continues. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Kroll?
I mean, for me, it's not an issue of not wanting to have a tough conversation. It's completely failing to see the applicability of this legislation as it stands to USG. I feel like as you guys are verbally speaking, I'm like in complete agreement with you. I'm not seeing it in here. Additionally, it's like we're saying, there's so many whereas clauses are repeating information. There's a number of grammar issues. And if this was presented at last Senate, and if I understand we didn't have quorum, why wasn't it improved in the week since? I mean, bring the document to us as perfect as possible. Of course, there's going to be things that maybe you missed. So, I don't know, it's like I really want to support this, and it's not seeing how I can. I yield my time.
Is there any other discussion on the motion to postpone this agenda? Senator Murray?
Sure. So this is kind of, I mean, it's half a point I'd like to make and half kind of a question to the body to see where we stand on this. But so if the state legislator is currently going over the budget and they're deciding it tonight, wouldn't it make a lot of sense to postpone it so we can actually see what they decide to do with the CEP? Because if it turns out we say we support you keeping the CEP, and by the time they hear about what we've said, they've already made their decision. So I think that since we've already kind of missed the boat on influencing them before they vote, it might be worth it to wait a week on this and then make it a statement of position in reaction to what they do end up deciding. Because right now, as it stands, if they're already talking about it right now and they're making a decision tonight, we can no longer influence that, which is the entire way that this document is structured. So I feel like, in my point of view, it makes more sense to wait, see what they vote, and then respond to it. If they cut it, then we can bring this back as a, we stand against that cut. If they support it, then, I mean, we don't really need to pass it anymore, or maybe you'd still like to, that's up to you as the authors, of course, but I think if they're already considering it, then this bill as it stands doesn't really have a point, and it might need to be reworked after the results come out.
Is there any other point, discussion?
We're discussing the motion to postpone to next Senate. So I'd say we shouldn't agree to this motion. We shouldn't vote in the affirmative because then we'll have an opportunity, we're already gathered here. We have the opportunity to really dissect the legislation, add the points that Senator Corolla mentioned. So I feel like it's very important if we continue talking about this.
I'm also advocating for getting rid of the points too. I hope
Point of order, point of information cannot involve the speaker.
And not for debate.
So I think it's very important if we vote nay for this motion, so we can at least talk about it the rest of the Senate, and then be with a final bill for next Senate, rather than still discussing and still arguing and still adding amendments for next Senate. So I vote everybody, I implore everybody to vote nay on this motion. I yield my time to the chair.
Any other, yes, Senator Caucus.
Can I motion for the previous question?
Okay, there is currently a motion on the floor.
Second.
Is there a second? For the previous question? Okay, Senator Reynolds. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, we will now move into a vote. Again, just to be clear, this is a motion for the previous question, which is on this current joint resolution that we have in front of us.
This is the motion
For the
postponing to next Senate.
Sorry, I'm sorry, my bad. For the postponement. So if there's no discussion, we will now move into a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Personal privilege.
Yes.
What are we voting on right now?
Yes, I don't understand.
To postpone this item.
No.
We're voting on the motion for the previous.
This
For
is
the previous
problem.
question. That's it. The
The
first
voting,
one is saying
you
that.
have to still vote on that motion, so this is basically, that motion means I move to end debate. So now we're gonna vote on whether or not we should end debate. And then once that vote passes presumably, then we go to that what you want to do.
So we will go back to what I originally said then. This is motioning to go back to the previous question, so basically to vote on this resolution. All those in favor to end debate and go back to the previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Any abstention? Seeing none, we are moving back to the previous question, which is motion on this statement of position. What did I do wrong? Okay. Is there any other discussion on this item? Senator Teeling?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I was saying before, so our legislature right now, our legislative body tonight is going to take up a budget debate in the Senate. We don't know what's in that bill. We don't know what the outcome of the Citizens Election Program is going to be. My two colleagues here put together a great statement. This is something they are empowered about. This is something they feel passionate about. This is something that affects us all very directly. As the Citizens Election Program has proven, according to CT News Junkie, that since its implementation, seriously, that's a very legitimate source of Connecticut politics. Since its implementation, $2 million of special interest from politics has been completely removed from Connecticut state politics. Senator May Flexer.
I'm sorry, I appreciate your points, but what we just voted on was to vote.
End discussion, so we can't discuss anymore. We just ended it. We have to vote right now on the postponement.
Thanks, guys. No, we already voted on the postponement.
You voted for the previous one. Now we have to vote.
Motion to
We voted for the previous question. We now have to vote on if we're postponing it to next Senate, as per the.
Thank you, guys. Slightly. Anyways, so now we are voting on, we will now move into a vote on postponing this item until next Senate. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
All In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it, and we will now not postpone this, and we will now move to the previous motion, which is motion regarding the state. Now we go back. So now, yes, Senator. The state, 1025. Like to make it 1025.
Yes, we do. Just say, for
Unanimous consent.
unanimous.
If there are no objections, we will now vote to, or just by unanimous consent, change the date to make it October 17th, to make it October 25. Are there any objections? Seeing none, this passes. We'll change the date. Senator Martinez. Yes.
The top two clauses, is there a difference between UConn
No.
Excuse me? I'd like to yield my time back to the chair to ask. Is there a? No. Yeah. Oh, okay. I see.
So do you take this as?
Yes, we do. What's the amendment again to make a space or? There should not be a space, so that is a typo. You have to the second clause, so therefore there.
If there are no, thank you. If there are no objections, we will, and by unanimous consent, we will add a space in between UConn and PERD. Are there any?
No. I mean,
Are there any objections?
yes. So there is no space. So I think what Senator Bruca was saying was in the second
Oh, I'm
operative
sorry.
clause.
So let me amend. Yes. Here.
There you go. Just take
So
that
if there are
back
no
one.
objections, we will, by unanimous consent, delete this space in the therefore be it resolved clause. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will remove this space.
It's a bad name. I'm sorry.
Are there any other? Yes, sir.
So, citizens election program, is it citizens plural or is it citizens plural apostrophe because it's, does that help? Because in one of the earlier whereas clauses you had that apostrophe, and I don't, there's what, if you go up more, I think it's on the first page. Yep, whereas clause right above. Oh, citizens, yeah. Oh, it's citizens election, any difference? I yield that.
We can delete that apostrophe. So we are in favor of that.
Sir, would you?
It's apostrophe after that.
Yeah.
But it's as well.
I think. Yeah. Delete it. Okay, is it apostrophe after the yes? Okay. So we would like to keep that and say, yeah, because we would like to keep this.
Yeah. If there are no objections, we will, by unanimous consent, add apostrophes to the N to the S after all citizens for a citizens election fund. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will so move. Are there any other anyone else wishing to speak or discussion?
So I think now would be a good time to Senator Corolla and everyone else to mention their concerns. How can we say what we said verbally, try to put that in the legislation so we can garner that support? So now would just be a good time for Senator Reynolds' concern too, on how we can connect it. Because what we said, what we verbally defended, supported USG, what we have in legislation, as Senator Corolla pointed out, really there's a mismatch. So we would like to, let's talk about how we can put the wording.
Anyone else for discussion? Senator Hawkins.
I move to strike through everything where it says from whereas to system in that last paragraph that we're currently doing.
No, final.
That, yeah.
We accept the affirmative. Accept this one.
It needs a second.
Is there a second?
Second.
there are no, I vote. Or I can do the no objections. If there are no objections, by unanimous consent, we will strike this whereas clause, which begins at New York Times nationwide. Are there any objections? Yes.
Can I just further understand why you would like to exactly strike this clause?
Yeah, Senator Corolla, if I'm not mistaken. Nice. Basically, it's a fair point in terms of this is not really relevant to UConn. This is an nationwide course, especially since it sort of says that they want a fundamental change, and this is actually what we're asking is to argue for the status quo. So I think, I mean, obviously, most Americans don't have this sort of system. Most states don't, as you pointed out. But I think it's just not relevant to really Connecticut or UConn's mission. It's more of a nationwide thing. And we got a lot of other paragraphs that are convincing as well. So it's just look.
Okay. If there are no objections, and by unanimous consent, we will strike whereas in New York Times nationwide, everything until financing system. Are there any objections? Seeing none, this will be stricken. Any other people wishing to speak? Yes, Senator Severio.
In the last clause of the second page, it's mentioned that the citizen election program makes up an insignificant portion of the overall budget. I think at this time of the budget crisis, we're the only state that hasn't passed the state budget. I wouldn't say it's an insignificant portion, and any portion of the budget wouldn't be insignificant at this time.
Good point. We would like to accept. We would like to accept that friendly amendment. Excellent point. Oh, I know, he said to strike the insignificant portion part. So what would it
Unanimous
be?
consent thing.
Yeah.
Is there a second? There is no
Can I get
second.
clarification on what the exact wording of the motion is going to be?
There is, so Senator Tiberio is saying to remove this portion insignificant from this whereas clause.
Point of information, can we replace that with minimum?
Sure.
Is that technically an amendment?
I feel like that is an amendment.
If it's taken as friendly, it doesn't have to be voted
I
on
don't
either.
But it is taken as friendly, right?
I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Unless they want to be taken as unfriendly.
You just said,
We would like to agree with Senator Tiberio that we don't want to mention insignificant. So minimal, we accept that friendly amendment to say minimal.
Yes, Senator Tiberio.
Point of information, how is the document actually being edited? Is this all being written down?
Yes.
So are we just going through, are we still going through questions to the speakers?
It
or-
should be, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to close the debate to 7:45, or limit the debate to 7:45.
There is a motion on the floor to limit debate until 7:45. Is there a second? Senator Wright?
Point of information, why? It seems like it's just kicking the can down the road.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, you can respond.
So basically, I figure it's just to keep us in mind that we have, time is of the essence. However, once we get to 7:45, there can be another motion to extend that. It's just to give us a deadline, which can be edited later on, but just to keep us focused, keep us really focused on the non-critical matters.
So there is a motion to limit debate until 7:45 p.m. Is there a second? Oh, Wright already seconded it. We will now move to discussion. Seeing no discussion, we will now move into a vote.
So just to make sure everyone knows that we do have the 15 nominations, and the point of this session was to make sure that those nominations get through this session instead of next week.
We'll now move to a vote. All those in favor of limiting debate until 7:45, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Three abstentions, one by Ema, one by another abstention. And in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. And again, you can, as Senator Hopkins said, you can extend debate as well if by 7:45 we don't feel like we have an adequate resolution. We will now move back into discussion. Are there any people who would like to discuss? I would like to move into recess for 2 minutes. Are there any objections?
Why just want to strategize that way to make sure all the nominations get done and expedite this process. That way everybody gets to go home in time, we get to have the debate we want, and make sure all the nominations get done very quickly.
Are there any objections? There are no objections, and we will unanimously consent to having recess until 7:28 p.m.
All right.
7:28 p.m., 2 minutes. Everyone, please take your seats. I'm pretty sure I have to attend to that.
We're missing a lot of
Alright, well, we're just gonna do it again. Copy of the copy. Abraham? Absent, I don't know. Ali? Abi's not here. Audibert? Here. Okay, Baruco, here. Baxter?
Physically here, mentally absent.
Awesome. Bernardin? Here. Bonaventura is not here. Burns?
Present.
Carol Caruso? Chen? Okay, Contreras not here. Corolla is here. Joshua Crow is here. Bailey Crow is also here. Tamura?
Here.
Tamura is here. Zoya? Here. Dodson?
Yeah.
Okay. Edwards? Azuma?
Here.
Fazina?
She's here, she's not going.
She's not here. Gomez?
Here.
Okay, Hagan?
Here.
Harvey? Harvey's not. Okay, Hawkins?
Here.
Hinton? Here. Me, I'm here. Amari, Kelly is not here currently. Bison? Here. Bison's here. Kundu, McCarthy, McCune, McManus, Mima, Murray,
Here.
Union, here, Waucha, Raja Rahman, Reynolds,
Here.
Rogalski,
Here.
oh, sorry, okay, Sinopla, Schroeder,
Present.
okay, Seifert,
Here.
Teeling,
Here.
Takar, here, Tiberio,
Here.
Tumu, absent, Von Olsen, here, Vora, not here, Walker, Wellen, Botina,
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Okay, and with that, we still have four. Okay, now, no applause. So now, yes. Did you dye your hair? I'm sorry, no, we're not talking about this now. Yes, that's what we're doing.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I move to table the current discussion until after nominations are completed.
Okay, so there is a motion on second to Botina. Any discussion on the item? Seeing none, we'll now move into a vote. All those in favor of this motion to table the discussion until after nominations, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we will now move into the nominations. So the first nomination we have is the nomination of Joshua Crow to the Student Welfare Committee. Is there a motion? Motion by Clayson, second by Hagan. First, we need the president or the president's designee to comment on the nomination.
Yeah, this is going against smoothie right now. So.
Oh, word?
I'm sure they're a great person.
I frantically texted her saying that nominations got moved up, so
You can move to summarize.
The nominee can speak on
And
his own
then if there's no
behalf.
objection, then he can
Oh,
summarize.
yeah. He's here, he can speak on his own behalf.
Okay. Can the nominee please rise?
Everyone.
Are there
What?
any questions for the nominee or discussion?
I'll literally take it. How are you? I'm doing well. How are you? Why do you want to do student welfare? Because I work on a hall association as well, and I feel like by doing both that and this, I can have a direct line to the bigger picture as well as my specific one.
That sounds very difficult.
Yes. Questions do technically have to go through, so thank you for bringing that
Sorry.
up. So, any other questions for the nominee? Senator Higgins?
Oh, I vote for specific.
Student welfare feels like with the dormitories, it is the same way that hall associations does. So I just want to work with them to get it, since I live in a dorm and work on the hall association already. I want to see the bigger picture as well as the small one, maybe take some of my ideas to that.
Okay. Any other questions for the, yes?
Not really a question, I just got a message from Irma on behalf of nominations, so I can read that whenever. I don't know what the time is to do that.
Not, but will the president's designee please comment on the character of the nominee?
Okay, she said on behalf of all the nominations, she appreciates how many of you applied and is excited that almost all seats are filled. Every person who was nominated showed that they were passionate and committed to helping students and making this campus better, for not just students, but for faculty and staff as well. She's very excited to see all that we'll accomplish.
Okay, is there any discussion on this matter? And there are no more questions either? Yes? No, just one. Okay.
Point of privilege, can we do all the nominations at once at the same time?
We can, right? And then all the nominees rose up?
Yeah.
Okay. There is a. I feel like that should be. Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Yes. Okay. Second, by Carola, second. By Martina. Okay. So. Yeah, sorry. Motion by Takara, second. Okay, we are suspending the rules now, and now I have to vote to have everyone be nominated, right?
First we have to vote on suspending.
Yeah, but
We just have.
no, we didn't vote on it yet.
Oh,
But
yeah.
after we vote to suspend the rules, then we do the, vote to
Yeah,
have
you
it.
can build a list, you can build a consent list, where we just add all current nominations to consent, and we vote on the consent list.
Okay, okay. So we will now vote on suspending the rules. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the rules have been suspended. We will now be making a list of sorts. I could just leave, yeah. I can
You can just leave that. We're just gonna vote all together, every single one of those motions together twice.
But no one has to pursue it.
You have to move.
Someone will have to someone will have to, can you just, yes.
Madam Chair, I move to take all the current nominees for the body onto, and put them as part of the consent, a greater consent list to vote for each time.
There is such a motion, is there a second? Second by Hawkins. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll now move into a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Okay, any abstentions? One abstention by Max Seifert. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. We will now move to, first I'd like all the nominees to rise, if possible.
And all the nominations are abstained from the.
Yes, all the nominations. So we will now be moving to vote, and I'm just going to really quickly read out everyone's nominations. So we will now move to vote Joshua Crow onto Student Welfare Committee, Dennis Mima onto Student Recreation Advisory Committee, Adamus Wright to the Library Provost Committee, and Fiona Bernardin to the University Senate Faculty Standards Committee, and Lauren, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it, Zielinski to the Student Recreation Advisory Committee. There's more? Oh, I'm so sorry. Raymond Hagan to University Senate / Senate Enrollment Committee, and Serena Susan Jacob to Diversity Committee. So this is a motion to vote these or nominate these people to their respective committees.
Point of information.
Yes.
There's not four. If we ever.
Yeah, I think we do. We have 33, there's 5.
We do still have more, yes.
28.
But thank you for being mindful of that. So we now are motioning to have to nominate these people to these respective committees. Is there a second? Second by Takar for everyone. Well, first I have to have a motion. Is there any discussion?
I just have one question
Yes.
in the back. For Senator Wright, in your capacity on the Library Provost Committee, what's your stance on open educational resources, such as OER textbooks and for students?
Right. You can probably talk about just my experience in general with the library.
What do you hope to do with OER?
OER,
Yeah.
specific. So I'm going to say personally, I do not have a lot of experience with OER in that specific part of the library systems.
Sure.
I do have experience with the operational aspects of the library. So that includes, like, I'm a technician, I work for the library IT, and that's, we work a lot with the systems that the library uses, and I work a lot with the staff members that work there. And, this past, or basically what I'm trying to say is that I don't have a specific knowledge about that specific area. I do know who heads that, the OER, and I believe her name is Kathy Labrador, and she works a lot with that program. And I have worked with her, and I have asked her specific questions about the program. But I myself do not have a lot of information, but I will seek out that information and try to work with her to make it a better system.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does the President's designee have any comments to make on the character of the nominees?
On her behalf, I know she went through all their resumes and was incredibly impressed with all of your passion and excitement, all your ideas, and she firmly supports the nominations of all of you. And I'll be accepting, on her behalf, on behalf of people who couldn't be here. Okay, however that works.
Cool. Are there any other questions for any of the nominees?
With the exception of Adamus Wright and Joshua Crow, can I hear a brief 2 to 3 sentences on why each nominee feels like they're the best for that new role?
What was the previous question?
There is a motion for the previous question and multiple seconds, so I'll put it together. Yeah, sure. So I will table that until we deal with, or answer his questions. Okay, thank you. So we will begin with, you said, with the exception of Joshua Crow and Raymond Hagan? Okay. Sorry, okay. We'll begin with Dennis Vimo. Would you like to comment on why you think you're
Hello,
best?
I'm trying to get onto the University Student Recreation Advisory Committee. And being a sophomore means that I, as well as the freshman, will be the actual students here able to fully use the facilities that are being made because it's opening up in 2019. So being someone that would be sort of a liaison from the students to the contractors and the workers of the new student rep committee, I think it would be good to have the viewpoint of someone who's actually going to be able to experience it.
Okay, Fiona?
Yeah, so I would like to be on Senate Faculty Standards Committee. I've changed my major 3 times, so I've had my fair share of faculty at the university, and my life goal is actually to get my PhD and become a professor somewhere, so I think it would give me great experience. And yeah.
Okay. Lauren Zielinski? Lauren?
She couldn't be here tonight.
Okay. And Serena? Susan Jacob?
Raymond.
Oh, Raymond, I'm so sorry. I thought you were
So yeah, I have been nominated to University Senate, the Senate Enrollment Committee. I
I was hoping to get a seat on University Senate so that I could learn more about university matters. As a freshman who is looking toward working in USG and working with the university in the following few years, I felt that it would be good to learn as much as I can about university administrative affairs early rather than later. And I decided to join the enrollment committee specifically because considering the budget and concerns with increasing costs for students, increasing tuition, I find that it's important to make sure that we don't deny highly capable students seats just because of their financial situations.
Okay, thank you. And Serena Susan-Baker, who is not here. Okay. Well, any other questions for any nominees? Nominees, please rise. Most time, sorry.
Point of order, we should go to the motion for the previous.
Yeah, I'm doing that. Just want everyone to rise first. Okay, there is a motion for the previous question. Mayor, second. Second by Corolla. Any discussion on the motion for the previous question, which is nominate everyone? No? Okay, seeing that there's no discussion, we'll now move into a vote. Anyone in, oh my god, I can't speak words. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone who is in opposition, please signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? One abstention by Thomas Ray. This is from the previous question. So we're like moving to go back. Understand? Okay. No abstentions. So now we will now move back to nominate or vote these people into their respective committees. The debate is done. We will now move into a vote. All those who are in approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those in opposition, please signify by saying nay. Oh my gosh, no, I didn't mean to say that. I was just like not thinking I repeated the word. I said hey. All right, anyone? I apologize. Is there any abstention? Abstention by 5 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 people. There are more than that. Any abstention by everyone who's been nominated? And in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and everyone is nominated for Okay, so now to move back, we now have to, yes.
In order to move back to bring that previous legislation back before us, we need to motion us back into the current rules of the Senate.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for letting me. Okay, there is a motion by the chair to re-enter the rules. Do I hear a second? Second by Watina. Is there any discussion? No discussion. We will now move into a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? And in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. We will now move back into the original rules. Now you have to motion to go back? Or do I just bring it back?
Motion to make.
No, I can make. I'd like to make a motion, Madam
Okay.
Speaker, to bring back the resolution regarding the citizen election program.
There is a motion on the floor to bring back the joint resolution regarding the removal of citizens election program from the Connecticut General Assembly 2017-2018 budget. On the floor, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Seifert. He's like, any discussion? Any discussion to bring it back on the floor? Seeing none, we'll now move into a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Abstentions by Frank Maruco and Noah. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. We will now move into discussing this item. Yes.
Motion.
Point of order.
Now you do a motion to.
There's a point of order.
Right?
Point of order.
Yes.
We have to further extend the time to discuss it further.
Yes. We
So,
are past 7.
if you'll allow me to maintain the floor for a second, I'd like to make a motion to.
Different debate. We've ended that previous debate, which we limited in time, but we tabled that debate, and now we're bringing back a brand new debate.
Bring the same bill, doesn't mean it's.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Table of debate, what's on that, motion to.
Back into consideration.
Back into, yes.
So it's like a new,
This is a whole new debate.
Yes.
Suspended the rules.
Sorry.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Can we get some clarification?
Yes.
Just very quickly. So, Madam Chair, we'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules. This seems like it's a big debate that everyone wants to take part in. The rules in Parley Pro is kind of clunky, but I think that everybody should get their say on this. And it kind of will slow the body down, and by suspending the rules, it will kind of give us a little bit more freedom and flexibility in this debate going forward. So I motion to suspend the rules.
There's a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Second by Rotina. Any discussion? Any discussion? No discussion? Okay. No.
So, request for information, when we suspend the rules, what exactly fundamentally changes?
Everything.
So, by suspending the rules here, we're kind of taking that big formality out, so it will, not everything will go through the chair, through you, Madam Chair, and kind of just take the whole clunkiness of the debate out. It would make it so we have more fluid discussion, and that way we can also just kind of take out all that formality there. Just save the time, really, essentially.
Any further discussion? Yes? Is that right?
I understand that, you know, in the interest of time, that this was given process, but I feel like with the resolution, with this, as this launch, we should probably get organized. It's
Yield back.
You're back to the chair.
Our motion isn't to like undermine the process. The process is still valid. We are still part of the session. The only thing that changes is that formality. So we can just go through and ask them instead of kind of talking. Because when we were doing the discussion before, we were talking over each other, right? And like that is breaking the rules of the Senate. So we're just making it so that way we're not breaking the rules anymore.
Any further discussion? Yes?
Quick point of information, maybe to help as a clarifier. Would this make it more like a caucus than a Senate?
This would make it more like a caucus discussion.
You technically have to yield to me first.
Your entire yield back and say yes.
I accept your yield, Madam Speaker, and in that as our example, this would make it a much more fluid discussion. So,
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we will now move into a vote to suspend the rules to make discussion on the item on the agenda of the joint resolution more fluid. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? Okay, abstention from Franklin. And in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the rules are suspended. We will now begin discussion on the joint resolution. But I would like to remind everyone, please be respectful. Raise your hand. Do not talk over someone. Because if it does happen, then I will make a motion to go back to the rules. Okay.
Can you bring up the?
Okay, we'll now begin discussion on statement of position.
So, like I was saying earlier, I would love to support that. Like, in complete agreement that we do need to defend the CDP. But again, this piece of legislation isn't convincing me of that. I feel like there's a lot of repetition in whereas clauses. Definitely some mechanical, grammatical issues that need to be resolved. And like I keep saying, like verbally, like you guys explain it so well. And I can just like, why don't you literally just say, whereas we as students are voting members of the state of Connecticut, we elect to, politicians who need to represent our interests, hence why blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, that's not in here. And that's like my big issue. So,
We would love to include that, we will include that in the next upcoming resolution for the Senate next week.
So, just to clarify, we're still working on this now, so this.
This is still, we're gonna take this and run with it, so next Senate, we're gonna have a finalized bill for everybody. So just tell us that.
We're not voting on it tonight.
We're not voting on it.
That's what you don't want us to do, at least?
It's up to the Senate, but it looks like we're not gonna vote on it.
Okay, well anyways, I thought what I was actually gonna say. We're going through, Connecticut's going through budget cuts. Budget cuts suck. And the question is like, what things do we not, like, which budget cut are we gonna be willing to accept? Like, I know we made a statement on UCONN funding. That's obviously directly relevant to us. This, relevant, arguably, absolutely, definitely not nearly as relevant though. And I know so many other things are getting cut as well. Are we going to be making statements for everything else that sucks and that may affect our students? I know I'm not a scholar on this budget cut. I know other people are better well read, but my sister, she's going to medical school. She's very concerned with the fact that mental health funding and treatment for mental health, that's getting cut way more substantially than by 0.56%. Are we not going to make a statement on that? I think that honestly should be more pressing than giving people who are running for Senate $5,000. And not to say just because we're not doing that, this is not important, but I think if we're passing something like this, then those other things also have to be done as well.
To your point, if it affects...
I know people are going to say, well, Ben, you should probably write that. And I would really appreciate if no one else is willing to some help with writing that, because I'm not familiar with writing legislation. But I have like cautions about letting this pass if we don't really have concrete plans to address all the other shitty cuts that are happening as well.
To your point, you said that if it may affect students, when we write legislation about it, if it affects students, we write legislation about it. Yes, and we have a plan of action to implement that. So to your sentiment, if mental health services affects the students at UConn, I would love to see legislation on it. And you
yeah, so I guess there are no rules, right? So to that point,
There are still rules.
okay, I'm sorry. I'll hail. So to answer that, right? These budget cuts, like you said, they suck, and they affect a whole swath of issues across the entire state over every single industry that we have in the state. What this program does, yeah, like you said, it's like five grand to some guy from Collin to run for the state legislature, but that's the whole point. The whole point of this fund is to protect the interests of your sister, of anyone out there who actually wants to make a real change, and they can do so by being elected, and then they can make a new budget so that those things don't get cut. And elected officials are the people that drive how we as a state function, and they do so through the support of their constituents. And if they're being bought out by special interests, then they're no longer accountable, and they no longer have a mandate to govern. And that's the whole point of this whole fund that the state made, and that's why we are pioneers in the country to protect this. And so I think the best way to answer it, I digress. But we can elect people who will make better choices in the future so that those things don't get cut, and so that those little people, if you will, they have a voice. I give my time back to the chair /
Okay. Martina?
So two things. To that, I would be more than willing to start off that legislation if you're interested in pursuing that. I think it's a whole separate argument almost, and it shouldn't infringe on this, but if anything, it should be supportive of each other, and based on what we've discussed so far. And also, to Zach, since we are talking about a very time-sensitive document, which has been tabled more time than is apparent in this current session, it's like 3 weeks old. We've been working on this for a long time, and it's very time-sensitive as we've gone over. I would suggest that I support the points you're making, and I think you should, if you have time right now, could suggest edits or some amendments to add to this. Otherwise, we're not going to get into that.
Okay. Well, my next thought would be, like I said, if this has been tabled for so long, why don't we have a perfect legislation? Or near perfect?
If I may, I was just saying, you did have these concerns. Did you address them before the Senate?
No.
I was going to say there was nothing against you at all. But there was that time. Yeah, there was that time to come to us to address these concerns. We thought it was fine in the state. If you had those concerns, we would have loved those amendments to the past.
Okay, Senator Thielen?
Yes, so I just want to remind all of my colleagues what this legislation means. This legislation is not the UConn student government is in full-fledged support of the Citizens Election Program for Life Through Blood. This is a statement regarding it that there are senators here and that there's groups on UConn, specifically PERG, that is concerned with the cut in the budget. This makes up 0.058% of our budget. Our budget is $40 billion in the state of Connecticut. 0.058 is peanuts. It's peanuts. But there's groups here on campus, right, led by her and other senators, right, that are concerned with this. This statement, through my reading, says that members of the Senate, us, those of us who are concerned about it, right, will support her in protecting this program. And in the night where we don't know exactly what's in the budget, whether or not the program gets dismantled completely, whether or not it gets cut a little bit, this is an important statement to pass as it'll go forward and kind of make that marker that, yes, there are members of the Senate that are concerned with this, and yes, they will help her going forward in protecting this program.
I definitely have to stress the point I made, which was the point that was also made when this was discussed in external last Friday, is that this doesn't directly affect current and enrolled students of UConn. And I know you can say that, you know, May Flexer and Greg Haddon can benefit from this, but are we going to defend every politician who votes for UConn? And this benefits people who go against UConn and fight against UConn and who cut our budget. So I just think it's a slippery slope saying that we support this and going out there and, you know, we're advocating for politicians on this, not students. That's where I stand. This is for politicians and not students.
Okay. Senator
I'm just wondering if anyone has a number on what 0.58% looks like to help us like quantify.
$11.57 million. But that is through the abandoned properties tax. So that is a tax that nobody pays.
Right, yeah, I'm like understanding that, but I just think that would like help people provide like the comparison to what's being cut from UConn, because that's far more divergent.
So include the $1 million amount of 0.58%.
I don't know if you have to include it, I mean, that's your decision, but I think they might help.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Latina.
Responsive to what David said, this isn't just politicians. Students can be politicians, they're not mutually exclusive. As we saw last year when Adam Kugler, our trustee, was taking the question for the district representative, or whatever the title was. He didn't pursue it, but at least he had the option to do it. Also, question for Madam Speaker.
Yes.
The intention is to vote on this tonight, correct?
It is. Where it's done. Yeah.
Yes. The intention of colleges, is that
And still up for the vote for the Senate. If we include the amendments that Corolla suggested in Hawkins, we can pass this tonight if we add clauses that will make the student body Yeah, Senator Crow.
Alright, so I feel like the whole night we've kind of been talking around like the ideas of it and stuff like that. When I first read this, like I personally agree with the citizen selection program. I think it's very important. But there's something, not that rubbed me the wrong way, but I was wondering exactly what it was about this. I think I finally narrowed it down. In the bill, you talked a lot about how this preserves the sanctity of our democracy, right?
Yes.
Basically, that the people are the ones that are being represented. The only views that matter are those of the constituents of these representatives.
In essence.
Well, the part I'm getting hung up on is the fact that we are a either quasi-independent or independent body that is going to use a lobbyist to express these views to the legislature, thereby affecting a decision upon them that may or may not be the views of their constituents. Now, it may be the views of their constituents, and that's fair enough, but I think that there are ways to do this, perhaps by contacting our representatives and expressing our disappointment or in their decision or support, depending on what they do, rather than using our power as an independent or quasi-independent, whatever you have you, to influence a body that I feel like we're betraying the spirit of for the sake of saving it. That's all. Thank you.
In context, calling our representatives would take a lot of manpower, a lot of time, and a lot of dependency on people to actually do it. This is more of a encompassing, we are the senators, we represent UConn. If we vote on it, we unanimously support, and we can call to make sure the plan of action is carried out. So, but I don't think that we should just either call or pass the legislation. I think they work in tandem. So I think that to your point, we can do both. That's my response.
Senator Reynolds.
I think, and also one of the other points that was made Friday by Owen Bonaventura was that if this affects any students here, it's a very small, one or two maybe, that have gone towards this program. It affects a very small group of people. And so what if there are other students, you know, on this campus that have some program that benefits them, some minor program that benefits them? That's something like 0.58% of the budget that gets cut. Are we going to go to every single small group of students and say, we're going to do a bill on this, we're going to do a bill on that? I just think it's a very simple.
It's a small group of students, in aggregate, represent the students of UConn, I say yes, we do something like that. The CDP affects all of us, whether indirectly or directly, because our representative right now is funded by the CEP. We all have the capability to run for statewide office, and this would help us in the future. So just for those two facts, we think it represents all students. I refer to Senator O'Connor.
May I also point out one thing? Owen Bonaventura did say that Howard does, what did he say again?
He said that it's a small group of students that also are affected by another class.
So basically, last year we passed a statement of position about DACA, which by itself addressed a small group of students. And just because it is a small group of students doesn't mean they still get affected negatively. Just because they are small doesn't mean we still need to look out and look at the text.
Your point, you two have a gun. Yep.
I believe this does directly impact any eligible voter for that case because it's allowing for candidates that support us to be able to run so we can then vote for them. Not really to have certain candidates be able to run, but to have the candidates we want to vote. We want to see vote.
That's in spirit of our bill. That's the entire essence we're trying to get at. Thank you for summarizing.
Senator Dodson?
You know, you don't have to run for office to benefit from this. You benefit from this by having candidates on the ballot who aren't bought out by special interests. You have candidates on the ballot who represent your interests as a constituent of theirs. So you don't have to be running for office to benefit from this program. I mean that's the whole point.
I think the idea of saying that just because it affects a small amount of people, and are we going to write a bill for every issue that affects a certain amount of students just because it's up for budget cuts? I think that we should be writing those bills and those statements if it affects a certain amount of students, because why should we be complacent and say, well, we're not going to write a bill for everything just because we can't write a bill for everything. If you want to write a bill and your constituents come to you with an issue, write the bill. If you feel like there's a problem that needs to be addressed and the Senate doesn't support it, go and make those calls to legislators. But I mean, if we look at the past with One UConn Coalition, how many of us actually went and called our legislators and were part of that coalition tabling? So I think that if you have an issue, if your constituents have an issue, you should address it.
Exactly. So I encourage people to talk to constituents also about the CE.
Senator Teeling?
So I think tonight before us, there's kind of a question of who this affects. Now, if I may, Madam Chair, ask the body here, how many of us are lifelong residents of Connecticut? And how many of us remember Governor John Rowland? So Governor John Rowland, as I have the numbers here, accepted gifts of $107,000 before this program. And in turn, he cost the state, through these contracts that were very wrong, $93 million. We had a nickname in Connecticut. It was Corrupted Kid, because politicians would get in office and they would cost us money because of how corrupt they were. In my town of Winston, we had a town treasurer that stole $7 million and bankrupted our school system in 2007. That's terrible. It's programs like this that Connecticut, the General Assembly, came together in a bipartisan way, led by a Republican governor, after John Rowland, in 2005, voted through this to protect Connecticut and the interests of the people. Yes, this affects everybody. This is a very important piece of legislation, and this is very empowering for the students that feel so strongly about this to support PERG and support their mission to protect this program going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hagan?
So one point I want to bring up is that I'm just afraid that this legislation is politically charged in some ways. And the USG is supposed to be a nonpartisan body. Now, what I mean by this is that there are arguments, of course, against why CEP should continue. Now, all due respect to this bill, there are issues with CEP that have been raised in recent years, such as the fact that it's not quite as effective as it once was. And it's just sort of, it's also a sort of slippery slope to say that, and I know that term gets thrown around a lot, but to say that we need to support Connecticut politicians in Connecticut, or Connecticut students who become Connecticut politicians, because there are students here who are permanent residents of other states. So should we go to those other states and, in support of, again, possibly a small minority of students, go to those states and request that they change their electoral laws to better benefit students who may become politicians?
We believe public financing isn't politically charged. Like he said, it was a bipartisan solution, a Republican government, and a lot of Democrat representatives and senators supported it. Public finance, we repeat, Committee Member O'Connor and I believe public finance of campaigns is not a partisan issue or politically charged. And that is the main reason for the CEP for public finance.
And another thing that you questioned, brought into question, which is valid, is it still effective? Is it still working? Is it still benefiting us? Like I said before, corporate spending towards, or corporate donations have gone down 98%. 98% from the 12 years it's been implemented. That has been, I believe the numbers, like I said, $3 million down to $34,000 annually. It has been effective, it has worked substantially.
Senator Bima?
I have a motion to amend.
Yes, tell us.
Okay, so the fifth paragraph from the bottom, it says, whereas the removal of said program would diminish the aid provided towards grassroots candidates in our state. I think we should strike that because the next paragraph basically sums up the exact same thing, where it says the removal of said program would severely damage our democratic values. The success, and then you could actually add the success and aid of grassroots candidates, just to kind of clear up a couple lines.
Okay. We would like to do this. Success and aid. Oh, okay. That's going to be different. Aid. To and of. Of and to, sorry. The of and to. So does that read well? The success and aid of and to grassroots.
Success of and aid to would be a little more clear.
Success of and aid to. Yeah. Thank you.
Success of and aid.
Success of, yep, and we are in favor of striking that whereas above that. So excellent, yeah, keep more amendments coming so we can get to concrete solutions on how to make the bill pass.
Senator Kumar?
I personally believe that we've exhausted this topic, and I think that we should go back to Senate session and either vote on it or table it to next Senate, where you can make these edits over the weekend, send it by Saturday, and then we can look over it next Senate, if you're willing to do that. So that's my 2 cents.
So is that an official motion, or is that just
A
a
motion
comment?
to go back to Senate session.
There is a motion on the floor to unsuspend the rules. Declare a second. Second to goes to Bernardin. Any discussion? Any discussion on moving back into Senate rules?
So does everybody feel like they got a chance to speak about this? Okay.
We will now be moving into a vote. All those in favor of moving back into the rules signify by saying aye. Aye. The chair is going to ask that again, and it's going to ask everyone to please say their normal voice so that I can clearly, very equally hear everyone. So, all those in favor of moving back into Senate session, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. All those, that's sad. All those opposed? None. Okay, any abstentions?
I'd like to.
Okay, and we, in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. We are now moving into regular Senate sessions, and the rules are now in order again. Yes, Senator Caucus.
I move to limit debate to, say, 8:25.
There is a motion on the floor. Wait, I'm gonna.
Excuse me, I misspoke. I meant 8:20.
8:14. Second. Okay, we will vote in.
Order, we have order.
Yeah, hold on. He made his motion
Yeah.
is protected. We have to vote on that motion.
Okay. So there was a motion to limit debate until 8:20 p.m. Is there a second? Second to Adonis Wright. Is there any discussion? No discussion. We will now vote for this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Any abstentions?
I'd like to abstain.
Max Seifert and Rucco. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and we are limiting debate until 8:20. Yes. Go to call to question.
Yeah, because I didn't hear a lot of people's
Ayes.
I didn't hear a lot for either, or abstaining. I think a lot of people didn't answer. Division.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't, no, it does not, okay. So we will now conduct a rising vote. All those who are in favor of limiting debate until 8:20 p.m., please signify by saying, please rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All those opposed, please rise. 13. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Point of information?
Yes.
Can I change my vote from the abstention?
Yes. Yes. And you're opposing?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's 13 against 13.
We have 14.
14. Okay, so we are opposing, and with that,
Wait.
Yes.
Change your vote just to like.
Yeah, you can.
You can't.
Okay, wait. Guys, please don't make me do that. It hurts my hands.
Point of order, can we redo?
Yes, I am redoing it. So all those in favor of limiting debate, if you want to adjust, you want to amend it instead of 8:20, now it's 8:15.
I honestly don't know what people are voting against, what they want to prefer. I mean, I removed my motion.
Oh, okay. The next motion on the table was by Tyson. Can you repeat your motion again?
Motion to previous question.
This is to
We are-
vote on the legislation.
Yeah, to vote on the legislation.
Yes.
Yes.
Are we at that point now or?
Second.
Yes.
Vote
You
yes,
can.
second. I'm pretty sure we're back.
Are we voting on this?
Yes.
I thought you said it was vote on it.
It's
Everyone knows what this is.
All right. Madam Speaker.
Order.
First of all, I think like a round of applause goes for Risha for doing a very good job. Good job, you really stepped up, and this has been like a crazy debate. I move that we vote on this piece of legislation and that the vote be a roll call vote.
Okay, well, there is.
Don't we have to entertain the motion?
Yeah, we have to entertain her, which was to move to the previous question, which was to vote for this.
So I'm moving now to a roll call vote.
Motion for.
Yeah, so we need to still wait for her a second.
All right.
Okay, is there a second for, okay, Thomas?
Point of information?
Yes.
I raised my placard earlier and you didn't call on me during the discussion period.
I'm so sorry, I did not
You
hear.
gave me an gesture saying you acknowledged me, you never called on me again.
I'm so sorry,
So can I?
Let's go back to that.
we have to continue first. We are in motion. But you can comment in the discussion when we have discussion. When we go back to the motion. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to go back to the previous question. And there's a second, is there any discussion? Discussion, yes.
I have an important discussion thing about this. What do the authors think about if they want time? Do you think it would be the best to vote on this now? Or would you think as the legislation it'd be best?
I believe that we already made a few good amendments. I think the Senate already deliberated.
I'm gonna have to ask you guys to stop because technically this is not a bid. So we're gonna motion to go back to the previous question. All those in favor? All what? We're just like doing that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? To move back to the previous question to vote on this item.
Yes.
Okay. Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, Franklin Baruco. Depending on chair, the ayes have it. We are now moving to the previous question. We are now discussing this item again.
No, we're voting.
No, we're moving to vote now, right? Okay. So now we are moving into a vote for, no, do we have to do discussion? No. We are now moving into a vote for this piece of legislation, including, or like excluding these amendments to them. So all those in favor of passing this resolution, please signify by saying aye. Oh, did you wanted by the, okay. Sorry, so I needed to do that motion first.
Well, the roll call. It's not a motion, so
It's a privilege.
Did you already call?
I would like.
Okay.
Madam Speaker, I call.
So we will now be doing this by roll call. Yes.
I just want to clarify that what we're discussing is the legislation without the amendments, or with the amendments?
With the amendments.
With the amendments. So any parts that are stricken, they will be stricken. Any parts that are added in, they will be added in. That makes sense. So we will now be moving into a roll call vote for this piece of legislation. Give me a moment, I can do that. If you are, just for everyone's, just so everyone's on the same page with me, if you are in favor of, I'm gonna ask you to please, sorry. If you're in favor, I'm just gonna mark you as present, and if you're not in favor, I'm just gonna mark you as absent. Does everyone understand that?
What about abstention?
We're doing like roll call vote.
What about abstention?
What about abstention? I'll do it as excused. So that we're just so like everyone's on the same page.
Can we have a separate,
Yeah, this is a separate document. Like, you made a copy.
Oh, okay, you made a copy?
Yeah,
Oh.
So does everyone understand? I'm gonna roll call, and if you are in favor, I'll put it as present. If you're not, I'm gonna put it as absent, and if you abstain, it's excused. Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. Abraham. It's not here, so I feel like I'm just gonna pull people who aren't here. Ali, are you in favor of the resolution? Okay. Abba is not here. Oliver.
Not here.
I feel like we need to take.
Should we check if we have more
Yeah.
information? Yeah, can we, just because it'll make it easier to count afterwards, can we make the absence excused? Or would that be counting as an abstention? That count abstentions otherwise? Just put a random.
Okay.
No, we're only counting the
First-
so we're gonna have the total attendance.
First, I'm gonna take attendance. I don't know if we actually. Guys, first I'm gonna take attendance because I'm actually not sure if we have everyone here. I want to make sure that we do.
We definitely know.
Which would be terrible. But okay, Abraham, Ali, present. Alma's not here. Oliver is absent. Baruco is here. Baxter is here. Bernard is here. Bonaventura is absent. Burns, are you here?
Yeah.
Okay. Carol. Caruso.
She's here. You're here.
You're here. Okay. Chen. Contreras, not here. Corolla.
Here.
Crow.
Yep.
Crow.
Here.
Demora.
Here.
Knockham. Dodson.
Here.
Edwards. Efremov.
Here.
Fazina. Gomez. Hagan.
Here.
Okay. Harvey is not here. Hawkins is here. Hinton is here. I'm here. Jabari is not here. Kelly is not here. Bison.
Here.
Kundu. McCarthy. McCune. McManus. Nima.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Union.
Here.
Walucha. Roger Rahman. Reynolds.
Here.
Rogalski.
Here.
Sinopla. Schroeder.
Present.
Seifert.
Here.
Teeling.
Here.
Takar. Here. I'm so sorry. Tiberio.
Here.
Tamu, not here. Von Olson.
Here.
Vora. Walker. Wellen. Wotina.
Here.
Right?
Here.
Okay. Oh, waiting for. All right. Okay. So now, this I'm gonna edit it. If you're in favor, I'm just gonna write A for I. If you're not, I'm gonna write N for no. Okay. And if you abstain, I'll do ABS. I can do this. So now this is for the vote. So Abraham has to. She's asked.
Put like a line or something.
Can we do Y for yes because A is absent?
Yeah. Ali, are you in favor of this resolution? Yes? Okay. Amma is not here. Audibert is not here. Let's go to the green.
Yeah, like you just go green by green.
Yeah, Baruko. Are you in favor of this? You're abstaining. Okay, Baxter. Right, sorry. Vernon.
Abstain.
Short Burns.
Abstain.
Okay. Chen or Crusoe.
I abstain. I wasn't here for good.
Okay, Chen. Corolla.
I abstain.
Crow.
No.
Crow.
Yes.
Demora.
Yes.
Dockham.
No.
Dodson.
Don't get a vote.
Oh, yeah.
I would vote yay.
Would appreciate the honesty.
Yes, of course.
Efremov.
Yes.
Fazina.
Yes.
Hagan.
Bill stands no. He says no.
No.
Just tell me yes or no.
Nay.
Hawkins.
Nay.
Okay. Hinton.
Yes. You're abstaining.
Yeah. Okay. Bison.
Yes.
Mima.
Yes.
Murray.
Nay.
UN.
Yes.
Union. Sorry. Did I say that? Union?
Nguyen.
Awesome. Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Reynolds.
No.
Okay. Rogalski.
No.
Schroeder.
Yes.
Seifert.
Yes.
Teeling.
Yes.
Takar.
Nay.
Tiberio.
Nay.
Von Olson.
Yes.
Okay. Wotina.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Give me a second. I'm just gonna count these out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, yeah, 16 ayes, I'm just gonna count the state abstentions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 abstentions. Yes.
If you abstain, are you taking out of the quorum count?
No.
It's still counting towards quorum. Okay, and no should be 33 minus 6, but I'll still count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 9 no. And even though we have 30, we had 33, right, in attendance, it's actually only 31 because we have 2.
Does the formula count ex officios in attendance or not?
Just towards quorum, but like they cannot vote. So we wouldn't be counting them in terms of votes.
And even subtracting the 2 of us, we still have quorum, because it's
Yeah, and
33.
we still have quorum because it's 31.
Yeah, but that changes if it passes or not, if they were counted, like if we have 31 or 33, because if they don't have voting rights, they shouldn't be counted for quorum anyways. So if the 33 count already counted.
It's in the bylaws.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I think they're like counted towards quorum, but not towards
Draft some legislation.
Yeah, guys, wait more. I'm gonna motion for a quick recess. Can I get a second? Recess for like literally 2 minutes. Any discussion? Any, all those in favor, please move by saying aye. Aye. Okay, all those opposed? Any abstentions? Any opinion of chair? After that, little aside, it is that this resolution with the amendments is passed. We all right, okay, well, now that we are done with that. Almost. We will now move into the next item of the agenda, which is discussion. Are there any items to discuss? None, okay. We will now move to the next item, which is, oh, Josh. We will now move to the next item, which is announcements. Are there any announcements? I love you guys.
Oh,
yes. No.
Sorry, two things. So I'm running Community Outreach's annual food drive, and it starts next week, and we have boxes in the USG office and the SOC starting next week up until before we leave for Thanksgiving break. So if you can donate something and feed someone this winter, that'd be great. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Yes, Dawson.
Yeah, so as senators, I would encourage you all to email your constituents. I don't know if you have that information or what, figure it out. But there's an election coming up on November 7th. It's the town elections. They impact us directly. So you really just make sure all of your constituents are registered to vote, and if they're not, point them to the DMV. And I think that's where the online voter registration form is. All right, thank you.
Sarah Wutina.
Walter, who are you voting for?
I will not say. That is personal privilege.
Are you not there? Or could you update us on this task?
Oh, I'm registered to vote in New York
Absolutely.
also.
Well, first, does anyone else have any announcements before I talk, I guess?
Just to add to what he said, the Connecticut voter registration form is also on student admin on your student center.
Oh, really?
We did do that
Yes. Guys, please, be respectful. Okay, never mind. Thank
Okay,
you.
also just to say, if you can't vote here, then you can always get absentee ballots online and then send it.
Vote here, okay?
Yeah.
Please.
You can register here if you're a permanent resident in Ansonia.
But you can register here at Mansfield.
You can register here.
Because I registered.
It's literally so easy.
Okay, well, moving on. Any other announcements? Thank you. Are there any other Hey guys, nice Senate we had today. Yes, thank you. I don't know if you guys know this, but this is my first time chairing, so it was a little rocky, but like, no, I think we got through it. So anyways, announcements about snaps and claps. So we weren't going to do snaps and claps. I mean, we were supposed to, because this was supposed to be caucus, but it was special Senate instead. But I will do snaps and claps for the next time we have caucus. Or if you guys want, actually, yeah, with a real quick hand raise, would you guys want me to do snaps and claps at the next Senate when we have announcements? Raise your hand if you want to say yes. Nice and loud, so I hear.
Nice and loud.
Roll call. No, just kidding. Okay. All right, so I will probably send out snaps and claps thing probably Friday then for everyone. Yeah, or maybe after this. Just like talk about people. And please send it out, and I will present it at the next Senate. Okay, any other announcements? No. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Okay, moving on to the next item is adjournment. So if there are no objections, and by unanimous consent, I would like to move to adjourn the Senate at 8:36. Are there any objections? Okay, with no objections,